First, the story and the clown appears. I don't like clowns. Never have. They always gave me this eerie feeling. Maybe it's their painted smiles that never reach their eyes. Or maybe it's the fact that they hide behind those masks. Something always seemed off, and I was about to learn just how right I was. It started last Tuesday. I was driving back home late at night from a small town just outside Cincinnati. The roads were empty, the moon barely lighting the path ahead. As I turned onto a narrow dirt road leading to my neighborhood, I noticed something in the distance. A figure standing by the side of the road. I slowed down, my headlights cutting through the dark. The figure was wearing bright red and yellow clothes, a clown suit. I felt a chill run down my spine. Who in their right mind would dress like a clown out here in the middle of nowhere at this hour? I wanted to drive past him, pretend I didn't see anything. But my car sputtered and jerked. The engine stalled. "Great," I muttered, glancing nervously at the clown. He hadn't moved an inch, just stood there staring at me with those painted eyes. I tried starting the car again. It wouldn't budge. I looked back at the clown. He was closer now. I didn't see him move, but somehow he was standing right in front of my car, blocking my way. "Can I help you?" I shouted through the window, my voice shaking. The clown didn't respond. He just tilted his head and smiled wider. Too wide. His grin stretched unnaturally across his face, like it was tearing at the edges. I slammed my hand against the horn, hoping to scare him away. The sound blared through the night, but the clown didn't flinch. Instead, he placed his hand on the hood of my car, tapping his long, white fingers against the metal. I was trapped. There was no way out. My heart pounded in my chest as I frantically tried to start the car again. The engine roared to life. Relief washed over me for a brief second until I looked up again. The clown was gone. I scanned the area around the car. Nothing. No sign of him. But then I heard something. A soft giggle coming from the back seat. Slowly, I turned my head, dread settling in the pit of my stomach. There he was. Sitting in the back seat, his eyes wide and his mouth still stretched into that grotesque grin. "Drive," he whispered in a voice that was barely human. "Or I'll make you laugh." I didn't wait. My foot slammed onto the gas pedal, the car speeding down the dark road. The clown just laughed behind me, a high-pitched manic sound that echoed in my ears. My hands shook on the wheel, my mind racing as I tried to think of a way out. The giggles grew louder, and I felt his cold fingers brush against the back of my neck. "You can't escape." He whispered again. "I'm everywhere." I couldn't breathe. Panic gripped me. My vision blurred, and the road ahead became a swirl of shadows. I slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a halt. I jumped out, running into the woods, my only thought to get away from him. But the laughter followed me. It echoed through the trees, growing louder and louder. I ran faster, my heart pounding in my chest. But no matter how far I went, the laughter stayed with me. I tripped on a root and fell to the ground, gasping for breath. The woods were silent now. I thought maybe I had escaped him. Maybe I was safe. But then I heard it. A slow clap. I turned my head and there he was, standing over me, grinning, that awful grin. "You can run," he said, his voice low and menacing. "But you can't hide." Before I could scream, everything went black. And now I know the truth. You can't escape the clown. He's always there, watching, waiting. And when he finds you, you won't be laughing. Second story, I never liked clowns. They always seemed off to me, with their oversized shoes and painted smiles. But nothing could have prepared me for the nightmare I would face when I saw one up close. It was late, maybe 11 at night, and I was driving home from work. My headlights cut through the fog as I drove along a stretch of highway just outside the small town of Maplewood. I lived on the edge of town where the woods crept in and houses became few and far between. Out of nowhere, I saw it. A figure standing by the side of the road. At first, I thought it was someone stranded, but as I got closer, I could see the bright red nose and colorful costume. A clown, standing still in the dark, like it had just walked out of some circus and into the middle of nowhere. I slowed down, trying to make sense of it. Why was a clown out here? It didn't wave for help, just stood there, staring at me as I passed. Its smile was too wide, painted in thick red lipstick that gleamed under the moonlight. I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. I should have kept driving, but curiosity got the better of me. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw it still standing there. The clown hadn't moved, hadn't even turned its head. I shook off the unease and drove on. But something felt wrong. My heart pounded in my chest as I drove up to my house. I stepped out of the car, glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see the clown standing in my driveway. But the road behind me was empty. Inside, I locked the door behind me and flicked on the lights. I tried to calm myself down, convincing myself that it was just some weirdo playing a prank. But then I heard it, a knock at the door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I froze. My heart skipped a beat as I crept towards the door and looked through the peephole. There it was, the clown, standing on my front porch, staring straight at the door with that painted smile. I backed away from the door, trying to make sense of how it got here. I hadn't seen anyone follow me home. Suddenly, the door handle jiggled. The clown was trying to get in. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, my hands shaking. But before I could press call, I heard a voice from outside, muffled through the door. "Let me in," it said. The voice was too calm, too slow, like it was dragging each word. "I just want to play." I dropped the phone and stumbled back. My eyes locked on the door, heart racing. I grabbed a kitchen knife, ready to defend myself if it came through. The knocking stopped. Silence filled the house, but I didn't move. I stood there for what felt like hours, my hand gripping the knife tight enough to hurt. Then I heard the creak of footsteps inside the house. The clown was already in. I turned to face the hallway, and there it stood, just at the edge of the shadows, its white face glowing in the dim light. The smile on its face widened impossibly as it took a step forward, holding a large red balloon. "I told you," it whispered, the words slow and deliberate. "I just want to play." I screamed as it lunged toward me. When the police found me hours later, I was huddled in the corner of my kitchen, knife still clutched in my hand, rocking back and forth. There was no sign of the clown, No footprints, no balloon, nothing. But I know what I saw. It's still out there, waiting for the next person to let their curiosity get the better of them. Third, story, the last show. I had never liked clowns. Their painted faces and exaggerated smiles always gave me the creeps. But when the traveling carnival rolled into town, I was too curious to resist. It was a warm summer evening in Waverly, and the smell of popcorn mixed with the sound of laughter drew me in. As I wandered through the crowded fairgrounds, the clowns caught my eye. They juggled and performed tricks, their faces painted in vibrant colors. One clown, with wild red hair and a bright blue nose, stood apart. He seemed to watch me more intently than the others. Something about his gaze sent a shiver down my spine. Later, as the sun set, I took my seat in the big top tent. The atmosphere was electric, filled with anticipation. The show began, and the clowns performed their silly acts. But, as the night went on, I noticed the red-haired clown in the background, lingering with a sinister smile. He seemed to appear in every act, always watching me. As the final act approached, the lights dimmed. The ringmaster announced, "And now, for our most thrilling performance." Suddenly, the clown appeared at the center of the ring, his expression shifting from cheerful to terrifying. He pointed directly at me. The audience laughed, but I felt a cold dread wash over me. The clown beckoned me forward, and I was helpless to resist. My feet moved of their own accord as I stepped into the spotlight. The laughter faded, replaced by a deafening silence. The clown leaned close, his breath sour and his eyes wild. "You wanted a show, didn't you?" he whispered, the words curling around me like a noose. Before I could react, the ground beneath me gave way. I fell into darkness, surrounded by echoes of laughter that twisted into screams. Panic set in as I landed in a small, dimly lit room. The walls were plastered with old photographs of missing children, each one with a familiar clown lurking in the background. I realized too late that I had become part of the clown's act. The last show was never meant to end. The laughter of the audience faded and the clown's grin widened. I was trapped, just another lost soul in his twisted performance, forever part of the carnival that came to Waverly.